Wednesday, June 21st. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, I can't believe we never talked about net neutrality.
Let's do this. You know, it's, I didn't realize this, but
this is going to be one of those moments like, hey, Beatles is spelled like beat in music, not like the bug.
No, it's not even close to that.
Nah?
No. So, I didn't realize that summer begins like so late. I thought it was summer already, but it's not. It's summer now. And last night, the sun was out at like 8:30. It was crazy.
You know what's even crazier? We live right now, right, on the far eastern side of this time zone.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, we lived on the other end of the time zone. It's the same time in Detroit that it is here. So the sun would be up until about 9
Whoa,
when I was a kid.
crazy.
Summer days were crazy long, and it was awesome.
Well, it was right dark when you went to school, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I'd get up for school. And
Well,
it was
I mean,
blackout.
there's no school on today. I hope not. That would suck.
You know, I got this impression,
But you know
too.
what, though?
Huh?
You know, because the sun was out so much, you know what that meant?
What did that mean?
It's warm today.
Warm yesterday.
Warmer today.
Even warmer today.
No.
Some trouble.
Way warmer today. Like 10 times. 10,000 times warmer. Over 9,000 times
I got
warmer.
2 of the 3 ACs on right now.
It was so warm today that
About froze my motherfucking nuts off.
You need like
Woman.
You would need like 10 Geodudes to cool it down. You can't lift 10 Geodudes, so it's gonna stay warm.
You got any more things to throw in there?
I don't know. Have we used every inside joke or not?
There's one you're missing.
What?
Deep in other people.
That's
Gaga.
I don't
The
know.
one that no one out there even knows. We haven't even talked about that in the show in a while.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's get on with it.
That's what you had. You were like, oh, don't worry. I got an opening bit.
I wanted to bring
I got something
back
to say at the front of the show.
I got it.
Rim, I got it. You don't need to have anything. It is all
That's
me.
right. Well,
I rode my
I gotta
bike to
bring
fucking
back-
Flushing over the weekend. It was awesome. And I went to the ruins of the World's Fair.
Big deal. It doesn't compare to warm today, which has to be brought back.
See, I remember at one point we started doing the opposite. In the winter, I would say, warm today. And then the summer, I would say woman.
No, I don't. Well, this is on record. Someone will go find out.
You know what? I'm going to bring it back. Woman.
It's warm today. We need to find some other weather-related inside catchphrases.
You know what it's not going to do today?
Snow.
Rain.
It's gonna rain. Actually, it could rain at any moment in the summer.
This doesn't really fit in the meta moment because it's not a Geek Nights thing. It's just a Rim thing. But I'm going to be at the SIFMA conference in New York City on Wednesday. It's going like
I think there will be 0 listeners at the SIFMA conference.
Last year at SIFMA, I tweeted out, and a few people responded, and I met some people.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was this?
Just some people. They're like, yeah, I listen, not in the forum. You know, the answer we always get.
And they were at SIFMA?
Yeah. Anyone who's a tech or a business person in the financial world is going to be at SIFMA.
All right.
At least if you live in New York. Not that many companies, I think, are flying their people out, as many as they used to, what with the economy and all.
Ching, ching.
But actually, I'm going to be there like all day Wednesday, except at noon, I'm going to a lecture on what caused the flash crash. And there's supposedly the people who are doing this are going to go through the tick data, like the ticks, like something sold at this price. Now,
if they know this, why don't they say now and make a little blog post? Why they got to say it then? Why are they holding on to the?
I'm pretty sure. Like, I haven't been following up on the investigations after the flash crash, but I'm pretty sure everything I'm about to see is already available, and just someone smarter than me is going to explain to me what it means.
Mm-hmm.
But they're supposedly going to go through the data and do some data mining stuff and be like, so here's what happened. Like, check this out. The order of events could have been predicted. All this cool math stuff.
All right.
And at night, I'm going to a lecture and a cocktail thing, and a bunch of CEOs are going to talk about, I don't even know what, but free drinks, free food.
Here's what you do, right? I'm going to give you some disposable, like,
Vuvuzelas?
No, plastic Chinese.
I should bring my vuvuzela to SIFMA.
I'm going to bring some plastic Chinese takeout containers, and you're going to go in and fill them up with catered food and then bring them out and then go back in.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen.
I mean, come on. Why not?
But I'll be at SIFMA, so if any of you are SIFMA types, you're learning about financial sector technology and business and stuff like that. I count apparently as a C-level employee.
What does that mean?
Basically, they have the demographics of SIFMA, and they're like, look, like 2/3 of the people who come are managing directors, and 1/3 are like vice presidents, and all these corporate titles. And then all the rest of the people who go to SIFMA are Class C employees, which means any employee who has a stake in the company but is not corporate titled.
Oh, okay. So basically,
until I become a VP, I'm a Class C according to SIFMA.
So there's no A or B. It's just C means not.
Pretty much,
it's
C
basically
means
crap.
C means rim.
Yeah, it's like everyone else is C. There's no D or F below you. You're already the C is the lowest.
I don't know if companies send people at the lower tiers. I don't even know there are lower tiers. I don't know how this works.
They even let you. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, why don't they just say boss, lower boss? Not a boss.
Like a boss.
Like a boss. All right. Anyway.
That's it. Just it'll be interesting. I'll be there.
Is that your news or is that just something?
That's just something.
Okay.
Got any news?
Shouldn't that be a meta moment?
No, I already said why it shouldn't be a meta moment.
Okay.
Because it's not Geeknights. Geeknights is not lecturing or doing a panel at SIFMA.
So it's still opening bit, actually.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just Rim is going to SIFMA.
Let's do some news here, right? So Barnes & Noble, they make the Nook, which is this sort of Android-ish e-reader thing, right? It was $200. Now it's $150.
Damn it.
I mean, they dropped that price like a fucking rock.
Here's the thing.
And Amazon dropped the price of the Kindle to like something else pretty low, like $180 something.
See, here's the problem. The only reason I didn't buy one already is that I'm morally convicted about keeping first sale rights.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I haven't bought one of these devices. And for $100,
but you buy something on Steam, you don't have first sale rights to that.
I know, but
So why are you a big hypocrite?
So here's the thing. With Steam, I have no other way to play some of these games. I can still buy a book.
Yeah, but you know what? These books, a lot of them are a lot cheaper than the same book.
Actually, so far, they've not been. As in, every time I've bought a mass market paperback, the Kindle version has been like $1 cheaper.
Well, here, let me use our latest book club as an example.
Lies of La Glamora. When I looked, I found the mass market paperback for $7, $6.99 free shipping.
All right.
I found the Kindle one for
it's $7.99 on Amazon, but actually you can get a used one for 75 cents.
I'm never doing that again. The last time I bought a book used on Amazon, it was readable. It was in good condition. It smelled like locks.
It's currently unavailable on the Kindle.
Oh,
so there you go.
There we go. So,
but anyway,
I'll spend $100 on this thing and the.
I bought used stuff on Amazon, and it's always been pretty good. I got a high-quality monstrous manual.
Maybe I just got unlucky. The fact that it smelled like locks, like not like rotten fish, but like it smelled like locks.
Yeah. Actually, I got a bagel, lox, and cream cheese on an amazing bagel for $5 this weekend. And that technically came with a free soda or coffee, but I turned that down.
Really? You should have taken it anyway and given it to a homeless person.
There was no homeless people around.
Should have taken it and then thrown it away right there and just laughed at how wonderful capitalism is.
But there was a cute girl making the bagels.
Oh, well, you should have taken the free coffee and be like, you can have it.
But she looked like she had plenty of coffee. She worked in the bagel place. She could have had infinite coffee.
Are you sure she wasn't flirting?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wasn't a promotion? She's just like, hey, free coffee.
No, there was a big sign outside. It was $5. Bagel, lox, cream cheese, and coffee.
Oh, well. Yeah. So is that it? They're just lowering the prices?
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of a big deal. That's a really freaking low price for what you get, right? I mean, the only thing it's lacking, really, I mean, it doesn't have a very powerful processor or anything, but it's powerful enough, you know? The only thing is that these things don't have, like, you know, high-quality screens. They have e-reader screens.
Which, actually, I would argue are higher quality for certain kinds of reading, but much lower quality for other kinds of reading.
Right, but I mean, for $150... you can swap out the screen. Well, but you need to get a video chip in there. I don't know. But
you're $100. You're not swapping out that screen.
No. But the point is that the price is low enough to where it's sort of worth it to like just buy it and hack the device and do something else with it. I mean, it's Android, right? So you can go to town. At least on the Nook, which is the cheaper of the two. The Kindle is not as cheap.
See, if I bought it for $100, you know,
it's $150.
I'm saying, but if it got to $100, which it will, I'd use it to read books. That's what I want. I mean, think about it. The people who want more than that are going to buy an iPad, and they'll think it's an iPad, and I can also read.
Yeah,
books
what's the
on
iPad cost? Let's go.
Yeah, but
iPad.
remember, people who buy the ebook readers just want them to read books primarily.
iPad starts at $500. So for the price of an iPad, you can get like 3 Nooks. That is pretty bad for the iPad right there.
No, it's not. Because remember, the people who buy the iPad are not buying it for the e-reading. They use the e-reading, the fact that it can do it, to justify the purchase of the iPad. Because they say, yeah, it was expensive, and it does, only these limited things, but it's also an e-reader. I didn't have to buy a Kindle, so it's like it's $150 cheaper.
So it's $350.
Yeah, and they'll just...
what's weird, though, right, is iPad, $500, right? But the iPhone, if you get it unlocked, is like $600, $700. It's ridiculous price. Ludicrous.
Well, something Americans always forget about is that miniaturization is very expensive, and even the cheap cell phones are really expensive to manufacture in a lot of cases, and they use a lot of very high-end technology.
Yeah. But as of today, you can actually get the iBooks on your iPhone or your iPod Touch. You don't need an iPad.
Yeah, I don't know if I can read something on that small screen for that long, though.
Well, but the thing is that it has the higher. If you get the iPhone 4, it's got the high-res screen with the 4X pixels.
True.
I bet you could read on that motherfucker.
Yeah, but I feel
hope so. I bought one. God.
I feel like I'd like the bigger screen anyway for reading a book.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to pay $500 for.
Because I've always liked the books that have fairly large pages, but that are extremely word dense.
My problem is, the thing is, like, I'm not one of those zealots who's like, oh, I got to read it on paper, right? You know what? In terms of just the experience, forgetting about the DRM or the price or any of that sort of, meta stuff.
Yep.
In terms of just the experience of reading, the number one thing that the digital readers are missing, you know what it is?
Writing notes.
No. They have writing notes.
They don't work that well.
It works.
Nah.
They have bookmarks, too. They have better bookmarks.
I know they have better bookmarks.
You know what they're missing? Doesn't smell good. I'm a book smeller.
Scott, so what you should do, right? Buy a pack, like a bunch of boosters of like foreign magic cards, real cheap.
And just tape it to my nose.
And just every time you go out, tape a new, freshly opened magic card to the back of your Nook.
For that amount of money, I might as well just play some fucking CCGs.
I gotta admit, playing Magic that day was pretty fun, except that, the decks were kind of broken and you don't make any decisions after you start playing.
You should just play with some old cards with one of those methods that they were talking about, where like you have one big deck and everyone shares it, and you could, or one of those kind of things. There were a lot of,
You could always play Magic the Conquering. No one fucking remembers that. It came in, I think, Scribe magazine. It was a
How
big
does that
promotional
work?
thing. So it came with this big hex map with land, like plains and mountains all over it. And then the middle was this monolith. And I forget the exact rules, but your wizard walked around like he was on a hex. You summon a creature, they're on a hex. They move around on the hexes. And you basically have to conquer land to use it to tap to do shit.
Why don't we play Magic with Dominion rules, right? So you start with it. You start with a deck, right? And we'll use artifacts as victory points, right? So an artifact is worth the number of victory points equal
Why
to...
Why victory points? If you're playing that way, why don't you just play cards using Dominion-like rules to kill the other player?
So everyone gets 20 health, and your deck starts with 10 lands, and you draw 5. Or 10 lands and 3 1/1 creatures.
So if you buy
7 lands and 3 1/1 creatures.
This gets overpowered really quickly because if you have enough money to buy a creature, like a Siobhan Dragon, you can just keep whipping that Siobhan Dragon out over and over and over again. You don't care if it dies.
So you start the game with
the
math doesn't work anyway.
So I got a couple of quick newses I just want to mention, partly because we're trying to kill time before the second half of the show, but also because I think that they're worth talking about. So there was an internet shitstorm and a little bit of a kind of real world shitstorm about the fact that the Utah Attorney General tweeted the orders to execute someone, which, while some people said was in bad taste, I say, why is one medium any different than any other medium?
Oh, you put it in the newspaper. That's tasteful. You did it on TV. That's not.
I mean, go back to the year 15 whatever. It's like, how dare they record? I don't know why.
How dare they announce it on the radio?
So one, I said 1500, and two, I don't know why.
There was no radio in 1500.
Why either one of us did that accent? That has nothing to do with 1500.
Because that's how they talked on the radio early days.
That's how everyone from any year before 1930 talked. How dare they?
Well, I mean, I guess not in 1500. In 1500, I don't think they spoke English.
I'm sure he thought about it.
No, they definitely did.
Because he fit it into the 150 characters. I just gave the go-ahead to corrections director to proceed with Gardner's execution. May God grant him the mercy he denied his victims.
Mm-hmm. And
it was retweeted. There was all sorts of chaos about it. But It's weird how I want to bring this up just to say that it's not newsworthy that it was newsworthy. Like, this is just, this is a natural extension. Twitter-like things are a means of communication, and the only reason they're not respected now...
He texted it, oh no.
...is because, even when he went to that lecture with
we
Will
broke
Wright,
up over IM.
What did Will Wright say over and over again? People don't respect any new form of media until all the people who were around before it existed die. And then once it's just commonplace, people don't think of it any differently from any other media.
Yep.
So video games, some people still don't respect them. Twitter's the same way.
That newfangled radio there.
Yeah.
It's not older than me, therefore I don't respect it.
Which comes into the same, because there's another article I want to mention briefly that's related to this. There's this whole thing it was linked to on Slashdot, about how, according to a recent study, engineers, the vast majority of them, don't use Twitter and personally dislike Twitter. And a lot of people hate on Twitter. I mean, everyone out on the internet, there's blogs like, oh, Twitter, I don't care about what kind of sandwich you ate today. And so far, 99%, this is a statistic that is completely accurate that I made up right now, of the people who complain about Twitter don't understand what Twitter is and are complaining. It'd be like me complaining. I'm trying to think of a good example. It'd be like playing Counter-Strike.
When Rim said he didn't need tabs in his web browser?
No, it's more like if I started playing Counter-Strike.
When Rim said he didn't need a camera in his phone?
If I started, that is not in any way related. It's not about needing. The engineers don't say they don't need it. They're saying they don't like it primarily because
you said you didn't like having a camera in the phone.
Actually, I didn't because I wasn't allowed to have a camera at work, so I couldn't bring my
phone into work. You also didn't
like
it in addition to that.
No, because I couldn't bring my camera. Every day when I got to work, I had to take my fucking cell phone and give it to the security guard, and I had to get it back when I left because cameras were banned from my facility. It sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was in addition to you also expressing dislike with the camera in the phone.
No, not really. I mean, the camera on my phone was shitty. I never used it back then.
You didn't use it when you didn't have it.
No, I had it, and I didn't use it because it took shitty pictures. It wasn't easy to get the pictures off.
All right, that's enough of this.
Anyway, most of the complaints about Twitter are people who are basically saying, there's spam on Twitter, and I go actively seek it out and read it in order to complain about it. Like, don't these people realize you only see the tweets of people you subscribe to?
And it's the same shit with the people who are like, oh my God, they published my email address. It's a privacy violation. It's like, so the phone book wasn't? I mean...
No, I don't think... I'm not going to go that way. I don't think it's the same situation. Here, it's just very specifically the issue that there is a medium whereby you subscribe. You say, I want X information.
But if someone says that, it's because they don't understand how email works. Oh no, the whole world got my email address. So you just make a fucking filter and you report as spam and you have a spam filter and no one no one will be able to email you and they won't be able to do anything else to you. Having your email address means nothing. They can't do anything to you at all, period.
All right. Anyway,
it's the same with Twitter. If you don't follow the spammers, they can't do anything to you, period. Your lack of understanding of technology is what opens you up to getting abused by the technology.
I just want to leave the email example off because this is so much more direct. It's not like, with email, at least, someone can send you, whatever filters you have, there's a tiny possibility someone could send you an email that is bullshit that you didn't want, and it got to you somehow.
Actually, the Gmail spam filter's been getting a little weak lately.
Yeah, it has. I've gotten about one spam every few days for the past, just recently.
Yeah, just very, very recently. I think someone figured out a trick that will soon be unfigured out.
Yeah. But at least, there's the tiny chance that one spam will get through every now and then because there is still the capability for push. Mm-hmm. But with Twitter, it's just pull. If you ever see a tweet that you didn't care about, it is your dumbass fault.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes I used to have a policy. If you follow me, I'll follow you. I stopped that.
I stopped that a long time ago.
Stopped that policy. So
I hurt a lot of people's feelings when I unfollowed them all at once.
How do people even know if you get unfollowed? It doesn't tell you.
Yeah, it does. You can tell it to tell you.
I've never gotten it. It never tells me. Anyway,
no, you probably didn't turn that on.
If I unfollowed a whole bunch of people recently, but if I get a spam, right, like someone @s me a spam,
I just block them without even thinking.
No, there's a button in TweetDeck that says block and report as spam. And
I don't have a report as spam button. I just have a block button.
I clicked that mofo right away. I had no prejudice. One guy, he was a real person. He was trying to he was like a job recruiter. He was like, hey, you want to give me your phone number? We could talk. And I was like, eh.
So how did he get you? Did he @ you?
I think he just looked for technology people on Twitter.
Oh, because see, here's the other thing. I don't read @ except when I'm at a convention or something. I never read @.
I have all these columns and stuff.
What I do is
the columns are actually pretty good because I have a Geeknights column. and I got a column so I can see whatever whoever, like, I can follow you, and I have a column so I can see anything you say and anything anyone says to you. So
see, the thing
like,
is, I only read Twitter really for the few people I follow and to self-organize when I'm out in public at conventions and stuff. So I use all those, like I set up all the columns and timelines and everything like before PAX. And then I get rid of them all or turn them all off after PAX because normally I only read the tweets from people I actually actively follow.
Yeah.
But it amazes me that to this day, so many people who complain about Twitter are basically, all they're really saying is, I'm a dumbass who doesn't understand this and I'm going to complain about it.
It's a newfangled thing. I don't like it.
And the examples in this article are just hilarious. So what, like the Slashdot article actually links to, like, you know, most tweets are useless crap like this. And they linked to this guy's Twitter and he tweeted, and I quote, "Go!"
That's a great tweet. What are you talking about? His team probably scored.
Or hashtag POR, you know, Portugal. I love my country. I love my team. Heart OMG, comma OMG, OMG. Portugal!
Dude, if I was from Portugal, that might be my tweet.
I might start following this guy.
Yeah.
I followed Vuvuzela for a while.
It's also, I followed GoGo13.
Oh, GoGo13 is one of my favorites.
All he ever says is ...
Yeah.
Duke
I like
Togo.
how occasionally he'll add it to someone and he'll just still say ...
Duke Togo ...
So yeah, but I have real news.
Wait,
Real
that
news.
wasn't the real news?
No, that was all just fluff. We're trying to kill time.
It's taking a long time here.
Yeah, well, you wanted me to. Do you want me to not use the real news? So we don't have to talk about this too long because I don't care about the details because I have funny things to say. So the article is VLC 1.1 has to stop allowing shoutcast support.
What?
Because AOL won't let them anymore. No.
What?
Question the first. What the fuck's Shoutcast? And question the second, what the fuck is AOL?
Well, Shoutcast is...
I know what Shoutcast is.
100 years old.
Who cares about Shoutcast and who cares about AOL?
I think a lot of people actually
This article was like out of the early 2000s. It talks about Shoutcast, about Nullsoft, Videoland, AOL. This is crazy, but apparently here's the deal. So Shoutcast, you can, like, there's a license where you can use it, right?
I know, I thought it was open. I guess
it's not completely open, but the license is there. VLC was using it. Apparently, the terms of the license don't allow you to use it in a project that itself has a viral license to make things more open. Mm-hmm. So basically...
So in other words, it's non-GPL compatible.
Yes, but the language of it, I'm not going to bother quoting and everything, but it's almost as though, and I wonder if we're going to start seeing more of this, they have made Shoutcast very specifically free as in beer, and not just not free as in speech, but against free as in speech. That basically, imagine if you have a reverse GPL, a license that says you can use this for free, but you can never use it with or in relation to any open source thing. Or anything that requires something to be open source or anything viral.
It doesn't matter because you can just see the problem is only the GPL is viral. None of the open source licenses have the viral nature of them. So you could just use the MIT license or the BSD license. But the thing is, it's a lot of difficulty for VLC to switch. If they would have started out that way, they'd be all good. But now to switch is a huge legal pain in the ass.
Yeah, basically the license clause prohibits the redistribution of Shoutcast with any product whose own license requires that it be, quote, disclosed or distributed in source code form, licensed for the purposes of making derivative works, or redistributable at no charge.
Well, maybe AOL will fix it, or...
Now, that's all, part of this. It's an interesting idea that people might start making kind of, like, you can make viral licenses to do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can only use the software if you include a picture of your own penis in it.
Well, remember postcardware? It's like, if you use this, send me a postcard.
Yeah, I like that sort of concept, though. It's neat. But at the same time... It comes down to the whole thing of are EULAs and things like that binding or not? Because if they are, you've got to send the postcard or you're breaking the law. And if they're not, it's open season on everything.
Yeah, well, this is, lately I've been it's weird. It's like, you look at the GPL and it's like, well, if everyone used MIT and BSD licensed stuff, right, then, for example, if Linux were not GPL'd, right, a lot of the contributions to Linux come from, say, NVIDIA and Red Hat and these IBM and real companies, right? So if the Linux kernel were MIT licensed, would NVIDIA still help, submit their patches back to Linux kernel, or would they just maintain their own branch? Would they? You don't know. So the GPL sort of makes sure that they have to do the first, which is good. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, nothing I'm going to do is going to have a GPL license. I'm going to use an MIT license. Go nuts. If you want to use my code, for whatever you want to do, it's just free party time.
Here's the thing. It's the idea that, we want things to be open and free, but some people, there's the two alternate philosophies. One hand, it's make everything free and just let's have fun. And the other idea is make everything free, but not completely free, because we're going to use the fact that we can control the freedom to force other people to make things more free. So I'm a little less free, but I force other people to be a little more free. And it's 50-50. I'm completely ambivalent.
Yeah, we wouldn't be without the GPL, we wouldn't be hacking any routers or anything,
So, yeah, it's just interesting. But there's a second part of this. Apparently, that license for this Videoland, stuff, Videoland would be forced to bundle some Nullsoft adware if they continued to use Shoutcast.
What? Well, they're not going to do that.
Which, it scares me. Nullsoft adware. Remember when Nullsoft was the good guys and then AOL bought them the worst possible outcome?
Yep.
Nullsoft are the same people. I mean, they made Winamp. They revolutionized a lot of the internet.
Pretty much when in the Windows days, right? In the late 90s, about a decade ago, you had a Windows computer and you had pretty much a Nullsoft suite, and that was your computer. You had every Nullsoft thing. You had a Nutella, you had a Winamp, you had a whole thing going on, and that was your computer.
But anyway, things of the day.
All right, so I just read this article here. It's actually a PDF, which is annoying. I'm sorry, right? But basically, this guy says pi is wrong. So immediately you're like, no. Not wrong, right? But then he goes on and he's like, really? I'm not saying that pi is not irrational. I'm not saying pi is not transcendent. And I'm not saying the numerical calculation of pi is incorrect. What he's saying is that instead, pi should mean 2 pi. It should be 6.2 whatever, and not 3.1 whatever, right? And at first I was like, that sounds good to me. But then on second thought, I was like, that doesn't sound good to me, because,
all right,
if you take pi and multiply it by I, you get a crazy fucked up number. And then if you take E, a crazy fucked up number, to that power, you get -1.
Which is awesome.
Which is amazing. It's like the most amazing thing in all of maths, right? But you know what? E to the I 2 pi, you know what that is? 1.
No.
So that turned me back around. I was like, oh, it should be 2 pi.
But what about radians? What about the radius-based math?
Well, that's just the thing, right? It's like
pi r squared and stuff.
That's true, but if you think about it, right, you have a circle, right?
Yeah.
So a circle is 2 pi, right? And half the circle is 1 pi. So if we had the whole circle, if we replaced pi with 2 pi, so right, then a quarter of the circle would be 1/4 pi, and a half a circle would be 1/2 pi, and a 3/4 of a circle would be 3/4 pi, and that would actually be like, kind of makes more sense, and it would be easier to teach kids.
Would it be really easier to teach kids, though?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would be.
I don't know. I don't think it would matter.
I think I'm sort of liking the 2 pi, but I'm also not completely liking the 2 pi. This, it's like, no, yes, no, yes.
This is one of those rare situations where I think a forum poll is the best way to go.
Should we replace pi with 2 pi so that, pi...
He's better. He's 2
pi
more
no
than X.
longer means 3.14159, blah, blah, blah. It now means 6.283, ...
Sine 3.14159, pi, I times 3. Let's go. We totally stole this from MIT.
Yeah. Anyway.
So... this is just beautiful because we talk a lot, or at least we used to talk a lot about fonts and how people don't put enough thought into typography. Except
I try to put thought into typography, but I don't but I don't know shit about it, so I fuck it up.
But in general, good fonts can make an already good thing look so much better. It's one of the reasons why Apple stuff just looks
They're the
better.
only ones who actually care about fonts for reals.
So if a lot of people didn't believe us, or they railed on us, or they argued with us, behold this picture. If there was ever a rationale for thinking about what font to use, this picture epitomizes it in one glorious butt-related word.
Butt-related word? Would it be Uranus?
It's some kind of fantasy.
I love me a Uranus joke.
So the meta moment, I guess we should get into that.
Oh.
Notice how I'm not going to talk about SIFMA here because Geeknights isn't going.
Well, Kineticon is
July 9th and such.
All right, so go to Hartford, Connecticut, and we will be there. We're in charge of panels, and we're doing panels, and it's going to be crazy, go nuts, awesome. There's awesome gaming, awesome everything.
Yep.
The current book club book selection is The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. It is a fun party time fantasy-ish novel.
I haven't read it yet. Scott did. I'm ordering on Amazon tonight.
You don't want me to just lend it to you?
Nah, yeah, if you want to lend it to me.
Because I already read it. So
all right, give it to me.
Save you some monies.
Sock it to me.
All right.
I don't know if we have much other meta.
No,
really.
Do we have any other meta?
Nah, we got
PAX is Labor Day weekend
holy
in
shit, PAX.
Seattle.
I got the hotel. We got our plane tickets.
Actually, my dad said he has a zillion miles. He doesn't have any JetBlue miles, but we might be able to go for free on a non-JetBlue. So, I would prefer JetBlue, but if it's free, I would go on a shit airline if it's $0.
Yep.
So I'll see if he can,
Because my experiences with Continental are always super nice. It's just it costs a lot more.
I'm gonna see if there's like a Virgin America option because they have the Wi-Fi and shit.
Well, you can't fly your Lufthansa or anything.
Well, I don't think Lufthansa goes to Seattle. No.
Nah, probably
it would probably
not.
be like US Air, American Air, Delta.
We're not flying US Air. The odds are they'll just leave us behind. They've had some trouble lately. I don't trust them.
I'll see.
I would rather pay than fly US Air free.
Well, it's a lot of monies to save, so
I don't care. I've been fucked by US Air 3 times in my life.
I've been fucked by everyone.
I have never flown US Air and not been fucked by them in some manner.
I'll call them and I'll see what the deal is. We'll get some.
What, US Air or your dad?
My dad.
Yeah,
I can call US Air.
We'll see. Because I want to get the plane tickets early. We waited a little too long for the PAX plane tickets last time.
All right, I'll call them. Later.
Yeah, you guys should go to PAX. We're doing at least a couple of panels and something else secret and awesome that's still in the works that we can't announce yet that we're still working on.
Secret murder.
I was as vague as possible there.
Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
Any
That's
other
it.
metas?
I think that's it. The Ustream comes and goes when we feel like it.
Go to frontrowcrew.com. It's our website.
Yeah. Join the forum. Forum's awesome. So net neutrality.
Okay.
I can't believe we
I think we've talked about it on the show enough. I think this is sort of a rerun.
We've never done a show about network neutrality, and in fact, we've only done 3 shows in the history of Geeknights where the word neutrality appears in any part of the text associated with the episode.
But I feel like we've talked about it so much.
Well, if we have, we either didn't type it in or your search is broken.
If it's a rerun, we've done how many hundreds of episodes without reruns?
Right. So on Monday, December 15th, 2008, we had a news about net neutrality and how no one understands what it means.
Okay. What was the main bit in that episode?
Let's see. Kindles and things.
Well, so in this show, we did a news about Kindles and things.
Whoa. So now we're going to...
It's the reverse show?
It's the reverse show.
Reverse show.
Plus, that was in December, so now we're in June. 6 months apart. All right.
It's the reverse show.
Whoa.
Inverse Geeknights.
Yep.
So it's Stig Keeg.
Nab.
Snag Geek? Yeah. All right, anyway.
On July 5th, 2006, we talked about Google talking about network neutrality as a news. And on July 3rd, 2006, we made fun of Ted Stevens.
Because he didn't know what tubes were.
Yes. No, he knew what tubes were. He didn't know what an internet was.
Well, apparently he didn't know. Maybe he was right about what an internet was and wrong about what tubes were. You don't know.
Maybe he was wrong about both.
So a cat is a series of uvulas.
Vuvuzelas?
You obviously don't know what a uvula is. Anyway, so net neutralities.
I'm going to straight up. This is an issue that it seems like only technology professionals, and even then, only a small subset of technology professionals understand and care about the issue. Now, that's key, because there are techs who understand it and don't give a shit. And there are people who give a shit but don't understand it. But I feel like only telecommunications people and then a small subset of other people in the tech world understand it. And everyone else seems to always fall back on arguments about, well, where does it say that they have to be neutral? And our point is that it doesn't, and it should.
Well, I mean, that's just something that's in general on the internet, right? Is that people, especially if they're lawyers or lawyer types, right? Or like D&D types, like law and books with rules in them. they have a hard time separating a discussion about what's right and wrong and what's legal and illegal. You'd be like, I think X is wrong. And they'll be like, well, where does it say that X is illegal? I'd be like, I didn't say that X is legal or illegal. I'm only discussing whether I think it's right or wrong. What does the law have to do with it? Nothing. I mean, are we going to go back to 1920, and I'm going to say, I think that you should allow the colored people to sit at Walgreens. And you'd be like, well, where does it say that?
Of course, back then, where does it say that? The Constitution kind of already said that people were...
But you understand my point, is that, right? So... You stop. There's nothing to do with law, right? And that's part of actually the issue is that there is no law whatsoever. The internet is completely unregulated, almost completely unregulated. And part of this problem is, well, it's unregulated, which is good for us, right? It's the Wild West. We can do the stuff we want to do on the internet, freedom.
It was that way.
But at the same time, the evil businesses can do what they want to do on the internet, which is anti-freedom. So should we make some laws to keep those businesses in line and regulation? But no, that regulation will also take away our freedom. So it's like, God, there's evil businesses doing things to take away freedom. How can we stop them? The only way to stop them for sure is to have the government take away freedom. It's like, no.
And even then, we say the evil companies, but I still think that much of the internet, if not most of the internet, at least what people define as the internet, should be pretty much completely unregulated Wild West.
Yeah.
Because...
I mean, it's the only companies that are really evil, right, in terms of internets are companies that, for example, Cisco, right? But is Cisco evil? Not to us, but they're evil that they help China do censorship, right? And then you also have evil like Time Warner. They will or Comcast. They will block your torrents and throttle you, and that is evil. But no one else is really evil.
Or even what about
everyone else on the internet is not evil.
Well, not necessarily evil. It's just it's evil I'm willing to put up with because the internet has shown me over the years that it flourishes best when no one has any way to tell anyone else what to do except by force.
Yeah, but they're not no one else is evil in a routing way.
Well, it's more in general. Technological solutions solve problems on the internet much more readily than legal solutions do.
Oh yeah,
because and then again, it shouldn't be this way. It's only this way because the law can't keep up, and the people who make the laws often have a vested interest or a secondary vested interest by way of people
or no knowledge
in maintaining a status quo.
No knowledge,
but.
Yeah.
The part when we say net neutrality, when I say net neutrality, I mean, we're technology professionals. I'm a senior engineer in the financial sector and telecommunications.
Ooh,
and IT.
Fancy.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to make too much of it, but we're professionals. Like this is our professional opinion. This isn't like when we talk about any other topic when we're just two guys. Like we talk about anime. We like anime. We talk about anime a lot. We've seen a lot of anime. We don't make it. We do anime panels, but we're not like industry professionals really when it comes to anime. We talk out of our asses a lot. And again, we talk more out of our asses the further from our realms of professionalism that we get. We talk about astrophysics. You all have seen the result of that.
All right, so is your appeal to authority over?
Not quite.
Okay.
But in my technology professionalistic opinion, I guess I meant to say technologically professional opinion, we need network neutrality. Not net neutrality. We're not talking about the internet. We don't need neutrality on the internet and this ephemeral thing, because the internet is just a series of interconnected internetworks. Mm-hmm. We need neutrality on the base plane, the actual low-level network, the stuff that connects stuff. All the glue of the internet should be neutral, should be dumb. Yep. At least dumb in terms of the content. It should be 100% agnostic to the content going over it, and it should just be a kind of vast plain where us Wild West people ride across and shoot buffalo. Mm-hmm. And anything less than that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean, the whole issue started, right, where basically, we pay your ISP, right? You pay your ISP to get a connection to the internet, and you can lay a flat rate for unlimited, or in some countries, you pay for a certain amount of bandwidth, depending on where you are. Maybe you pay for more speed or who knows what. And you're connected. And when you're connected, you can go to any website. You can do anything. You can go to any IRC server. You can route your You can send any packet to any IP address, and any packet they send back to you will get to you, unless you're in China.
Now they can choose not to listen to you. That's fine.
And those and all the routers in between you and them will make a best effort to get those packets to you as quickly as possible.
And they have to.
Yes.
The middle should have to deliver messages. Now, it does get tricky, really, because there are situations where temporarily, for the greater good of a network, someone would want to.
Well, that's not that. It's not it's a best effort, right?
Yeah.
If it's broken, well, I made my best effort. It's broken. I couldn't do it, so it didn't happen. But the issue started where some of the ISPs said, "Hey, look at this, right? On this side, we got customers connecting and paying us to send their packets on our networks." But on the other side, Google is sending packets over our networks, and they're not paying us anything. So anyone who sends a packet over our network, they got to pay. And that was what they said in the first. That was their original instigation of this issue.
Now, there already is a lot of paying. I mean, the internet, people like to think of it as a big web. The internet routes around trouble. But really, most of the traffic flows in the United States and flows through a very small number of very important nodes and data centers.
Yeah, like there's a big old Sprint link that's like this gigantic, fiber
And there's also
channel.
the internet, there's a difference between an internet, lowercase I, and the internet, uppercase I. The internet is composed of a bunch of networks that all connect to each other, and internet works. So someone owns like a big network, and some, packets have to get from Google to me. They might go through Joe's network or Bob's network. And the internet only works because Joe and Bob agree to let anything that comes in from networks they're connected to through. But in return, they can send anything they want to send through everyone else's network.
There's a great talk, I think it might have been a TED Talk, where this guy goes up and he's like, who has hitchhiked in their lives? And they were old people, so they raised their hands. He's like, who's hitchhiked recently? And almost nobody. And he's like, who would hitchhike? And almost nobody. So he's like, all right, so the thing is, on the internet, you hitchhike every day. You basically hand off your packets to someone, and then you trust someone else with your packets, and you trust that they're going to get them. That's like just taking your mail out to the street. Some cars are driving by, and you say, hey, man, you want to take this to Texas for me? And they say, I'm not going to Texas, but I'll hand it to some other car. I want to get as close to Texas as I'm going to get. And eventually your letter gets to Texas. And, in the real world, would your letter get to Texas? Probably not. Would you do that? Probably not. On the internet, internet, everything you do is exactly like that, and it works.
But the only reason things get there is because, by and large, everyone in between is not a jerk and not a dumbass.
Yep.
Now, if we lose net
sometimes
neutrality,
when someone's a dumbass, you get trouble, like when Pakistan screwed YouTube.
Or when your packets come back to you.
Right? And sometimes someone's a jerk, like when China blocks everything.
Now, we can't talk about the rest of the world. We can really, net neutrality right now is an issue only in the United States. We live in the United States. The rest of the world, you have to have your own debates as to what your society wants its internet to be. But we have the biggest internet.
We have all the internets.
Most of it.
Most of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we invented the internet.
We're really only talking about like internal to the US, but I really cell phone providers are the worst example of this because they already violate all sorts of these principles. And I feel like really data communication infrastructure is as important as electrical infrastructure and water infrastructure in the modern industrialized world.
Yeah, pretty much.
The stream of data coming into my house right now has more impact on my life than the water and the electricity. Well, I need the electricity to get the data, but I could use my laptop for quite some time and still get internet.
Yep. Oh, but the thing is, you need electricity for your router to work.
Yeah, I could plug it into my UPS. I got like 8 hours.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used the internet in Beacon a couple times when the power was out.
Yeah, and I know the FiOS equipment beyond the router is all UPS.
There's a giant battery in my closet that keeps the FiOS going.
It has to be because there's a law that says because it's 911 because FiOS is also telephone.
Yep.
So they battery that shit up.
But the cell phone providers, like for example, all right, it's just data, and all the data we're sending around is just data. But then they said, you know what? We're going to treat some data differently from other data. We're going to let it be free if you send voice data to people on our network. But we're going to make you pay minutes if you send voice data to people outside of our network. And we don't stand for that bullshit on the internet. So why do we accept it from the phone companies?
I go to a website. Well, this is a Time Warner website, so it's free. Oh, you visited a website that was on, someone was on Comcast with that website, so we're going to charge you money. They don't do that shit. I would never get away with that in a million years. All right, but how did they get away with it on cell phone?
Well, I think part of it is that because the internet is much more open and there's so much room to move around, that a lot of interesting things were happening so rapidly, it evolved so rapidly.
And it's like you think, oh, well, what's the difference with the cell phone carriers? Well, they have this last mile thing. They own all these towers. The cable guys have just as much of a monopoly on the last mile as the cell phone guys do. In fact, a lot of the times they're the same exact guys. Verizon, right?
The thing is, we're the only reason things work now is that we're lucky that the last mile providers have not decided to be jerks yet.
Yep.
But some of them have, and some of them want to.
Yep.
And I feel very strongly that we need a completely open, completely dumb, at least in terms of the idea of what is being transported over the networks, like baseline infrastructure. And ISPs that are last mile, like, I get my internet from Verizon, they should be subject to very strenuous regulation to prevent them
from The thing is, if we open up the doors to allow them to be regulated, then you open up the doors to bad regulation. The government is going to decide some regulation, and then we're not going to be able to, there'll be some technological solution, but we can't do it because the government regulation conflicts with it. And then it's going to be terrible. It's going to be the worst thing ever.
Well, part of this is a situation of a lot of the people who are afraid of a collapse of net neutrality are all afraid of different things, even though not all of those things are equally likely. And the industry people who might not want net neutrality or might want it also all have very different motivations. Some people don't want regulation so that they can be evil because they're not regulated. And some people don't want regulation because they're being evil and regulation would stop them.
Yep.
And I generally don't trust the FCC that much, to be perfectly honest.
We need some way to guarantee freedom without opening up the door to any badness. And
it's interesting, guaranteeing freedom, because look at a wholly separate debate that is still very important. And a lot of people conflate piracy with this, even though it's not really true. But in the Napster days and when, people started sharing media on a massive scale, the fight wasn't really don't let them pirate or our business will disappear. The fight was don't let them have the ability to share information easily with each other, because eventually they'll start making content on their own and giving it to each other for free and destroy us. The piracy wasn't what the industry is really, really afraid of. And a lot of real networks back in the day, they were pretty much pushing for lockdown computers, not to stop piracy. That was the stated goal. But really, it was more the idea that lockdown computers make it more difficult for you to be a publisher on your own.
Oh, Apple. Apple gives you some tools of production.
We're seeing this now in a lot of industries. The anime industry is being crushed, not by piracy anymore. If all the piracy disappeared, no one's going to buy DVDs. They're crushed by the fact that there's so much totally legal free stuff out there that no one's willing to pay. There's so much.
You never see us using a real movie as the thing of the day. It's always some YouTube movie. And that's what we entertain ourselves. It's never a TV show. Right? It's always something some guy made on the internet, just like Geeknights, something some guy made on the internet, which you are listening to, as opposed to listening to, Howard Stern or some other radio thing that you could be listening to.
I personally don't pirate any media because I have enough free media to keep me happy for most of the rest of my life already. And what little I can't get free, I buy. But other than that, everything else that I don't buy, it's not like I would have bought it.
Yeah, right.
Nothing, no force in the world could make me buy it, except, I guess, if YouTube disappeared, I might have to start buying media again for a little while.
I pirate almost nothing, but anything that I download legally or illegally without paying money, if there wasn't a way to get it for free, I just wouldn't get it. And that would be that. I would not pay for any more than what I already pay for. I'm already spending the maximum amount of money that I would spend on entertainment media.
Now, the interesting thing is that a lot of people who are afraid of they're for net neutrality are afraid of bandwidth caps and things like that. And I think bandwidth caps are shit. But at the same time, this whole unlimited data idea is basically pointless and stupid, and it's collapsing now that more and more people are savvy and actually using that data.
Yeah, well, I think that it's sort of a weird issue, right? Because think about this, right? Okay, so we should have some sort of metering, right? If you use more bandwidth, you should pay more, right? That's pretty obvious. But the problem is that there is sort of infinite bandwidth. It's not a matter of how much bandwidth total you use, I used a gigabyte. It's bandwidth that is available at any given nanosecond. Right?
It's a lot like
the
electricity.
Limiting factor.
How much electricity is available right now? What's the peak load? That's why, they you can have peak rates for electricity. You pay more for electricity on the hot fucking day at 4 o'clock than you do at the cold part of the day.
Yeah. And the thing is, we just need electricity has reasonable rates, right? My electric bill's $50? It's not, and that's with air conditioning going on. It's $40 when there's no air conditioning. So that's a reasonable rate. So if my bandwidth, right, the problem is every suggested tier or metering plan is always an incredibly unreasonable rate. It's oh yeah, we'll charge you a fucking $1 a gigabyte. It's no, that's way too much money. You know? If it was a reasonable rate, then who would complain? Oh, it's going to be 10 cents a gigabyte. Oh,
and at the same
that's
time,
actually perfectly okay.
These current unlimited, this whole unlimited idea just brings out the fact that's true in every realm of the world where people overestimate their own contributions. More importantly, they underestimate what things really cost. And they pay their $70 a month or $50 a month and get unlimited. But it's unlimited with a tiny asterisk that basically says it's not unlimited and we'll cut you off at any time for any reason.
Yeah.
And
I would much rather, the only problem I have with the unlimited is that it's false advertising,
Yeah.
I would be much happier with a fair rate because you know what I could do is I could manage my interneting to save monies, which is a good thing.
But here's why, at least I think a lot of the people who are against net neutrality, like the people who are lobbying against it straight up, don't want it. It's because the world where everyone has high bandwidth is one, the world where people pirate things on grander and grander scales, but whatever.
Well, they want to do stuff like
it's the world where YouTube exists.
Yeah.
It's the world where I can just watch video on the internet, and it's a world where ESPN could get to the point where they could say, you know what? Cable companies, pay us $1 million and we just won't give you our cable anymore because we don't care. We're just going to publish it on ESPN.com and charge people $5 a month to just watch it. Imagine if someday, in the far future, imagine when ESPN gets to that point when they're just, you know what? It's a website. You pay a subscription fee and you have unlimited access to all the ESPN sports on your computer.
Well, first of all, the problem is they couldn't, all the sports that they show, they have contracts with all those, the leagues and such.
Yep,
and
but
the leagues have to go for it, and the whole.
Or farther future, Major League Baseball decides, you know what? Let's just cut out every middleman.
They already have. You can pay to get that.
Yeah, so it's starting already. But they still
they charge way too much money for it.
Yeah, but that's because they don't get it, and because. It's still too soon for the average person to have their internet TV. It's too complicated for the average person to plug a computer into their TV. But think about how afraid of all this the industry is. Remember when they prevented Hulu from being able to be watched on Boxy?
Yeah, maybe, right now everyone wants like a la carte cable, right? Like cable company, I tell you I want these 3 channels and I should only pay $3 because each channel is $1.
But no, that's not what would happen.
What if the channel just said, screw you, cable company. Instead, we're going to just go on the internets and our channel will only be on the internets and it'll be $1 a month. And then it'll basically be a la carte, but the cable company doesn't get any part of that dollar.
But think about
only
the
channel gets that dollar
of this market. This is
but
why.
But you still have to pay the cable company for internet access because they're the ISP.
But that's when the cable company says things like, "Oh, well, all right, we'll launch our own competing service for blah, and we won't let you have access to the other blah. You can't go to MLB.com directly because you're stealing our bandwidth."
No.
Yeah. Or what if MLB.com makes a deal with Comcast and says only Comcast people can get MLB?
Well, that's what ESPN has right now, right?
And it's bullshit. I have it free with Fios, but I'm morally opposed to the principle that because my IP is X, I'm allowed to watch this service, but no one else is.
Well, because, right? So Verizon gave, right? Because look, right? So let's say Verizon wants to have Comedy Central on Fios, right? Cable TV. They give Comedy Central money, and then Comedy Central appears on, right, whatever. And, the HBO and stuff works the same way, only it costs so much money they make you pay, right? To get HBO on there. So imagine if, right, you got a website, and now, some ISPs decide to pay that website. So you only get Google if AT&T decides to give Google money. Otherwise, the net neutrality people were originally worried about was Comcast saying, we're going to block Google unless Google gives us money. Well, think about this. Google says, we're going to block Comcast unless Comcast gives us money. No Comcast people can search on Google unless Comcast gives us money.
That's internet nuclear war.
Yeah, nobody's, worried about that issue yet, but that could happen. And that, it might not be part of the net neutrality as people have been discussing it because the cable companies were the first dicks and the websites have not been
dicks that came
have
before.
not been the dicks yet, but ESPN3 is the first website dick, right? So it's still
I would argue that the first website dick came about a day after the internet existed.
I'm just saying is that they're, right? It's the same issue.
Well, think of it this way.
You make a website, you have to let everyone in the world visit that website. That's what's right.
Well, all those scenarios are basically the worst case, like, oh shit, crazy disaster scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But the real problem comes down to the idea of a conflict of interests. And that if you give the people who control the last mile infrastructure also the ability to negotiate content deals, so they have a hand in the content cookie jar and a hand in the last mile infrastructure cookie jar, even if they decide to be good guys and they are good guys, the conflict of interest is insurmountable, and it is unconscionable that we should allow such a gross conflict of interest to exist.
Yep.
I mean, we don't let the companies, trying to think of a good example that would make sense to all of you. All my examples are other technology things.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the best solution that we
what if your newspaper carriers, the people who, here's an analogy for the people born before 1940. If you let the companies that deliver the newspapers to the people's houses also own a share of the newspapers, thus having editorial control over the newspaper that the people receive.
Yeah, the newspaper delivery boy doesn't like this article on the front page, so he gets a scissor and he cuts it out and he delivers it.
Yeah.
And if you want to get that article, well, you got to pay some money. And
or
then maybe he won't cut your newspaper.
Yeah, never mind the fact that a lot of local ISPs have straight up monopolies.
Or maybe the New York Times says, you know what, we don't like Queens. We're going to deliver this nice, awesome, full paper with 100 pages to Manhattan, and we're going to deliver half as much pages to Queens. Queens, for the same price, you get half as many pages because we don't like the delivery company over there. They're jerks. And if they give us money, or if you give us more money, then we'll send you the Manhattan paper.
So really, in the end, data transport at the last mile level and at the high level ISP level, I think, should by law be data agnostic.
Yeah.
That's really the long and short of it. And the last mile providers should not, this is just my straight up opinion, they should not be able by law to have content production. I guess they shouldn't be able to have a hand in the content production cookie jar and simultaneously be an ISP. They should have to be two separate companies.
I think you just need to make ISPs into a utility like electricity.
Yep.
Just the consumer ISPs, You don't need to regulate so much the middle parts, right? Because those, with the peering agreements and all that stuff is really self-regulating, at least for now.
No, to a degree. Every now and then, they have a piss
Every
fight.
now and then, there's two jerks. But you know what? Those, the two jerks, everything just routed around the jerks. And it's not...
Actually, no. For large portions of the world, like Google stops working and things.
Well,
I
mean, this, it's stuff like Australia, right? Where they only have
No, it's
one...
within the U.S. Like, there was a situation a few months ago where half our customers, where I work, they just lost half their internet access because of one of these peering slap fights.
Really?
This happens more often than you'd think. It's not super obvious, but you go to YouTube and it's down. You think, YouTube's down. That might have been a slap fight that you didn't know about.
Well, we got to stop those slap fights.
Yes.
All right.
But part of the reason why there's so much fun, I was going to say this before when we got sidetracked. You're talking about the a la carte cable, right?
Yep.
So think about all the hands in this cookie jar. So why do we have the current structure the way we do? You pay $50 a month to get, the whatever cable package. And you can't get basic cable because it has a million channels, but it doesn't have Comedy Central, the one channel you wanted, or Siffy. So all right, you got to get the advanced package for $20 more a month. That gives you the 3 channels you wanted. And there's 1,000 other channels you don't give a shit about, like BET or Lifetime.
And you're paying for them. Right? It's right now, let's say you're a Fios customer.
Well. Are you really paying for them?
Yeah, indirect. The cable company's giving money to those channels.
It's probably more complex than that. A lot of times, those channels are paying the cable company.
Well, that's like if it's a QVC situation.
No, not even just QVC. A lot of those channels only are watched or only exist in packages because they can sell based on the number of subscribers to advertisers and weird stuff like that. And those channels, if you had to choose a la carte, I'd argue that 80% of the cable channels that exist would have less than 100 subscribers.
Well, also think about this, right? There's a bunch of TV production companies. They produce TV shows, crappy, travel-y shows and shit like that, right? That almost nobody watches. But they sell those shows to these channels, right? I remember when my parents first got the HD TV, right? There was a channel that was the HD channel, and all it was HD video of nature, and that's all it was. Someone had just taken an HD camera out into the woods just to make content, to have a channel to show off HD TVs. And no one watched that. No one would pay even a penny for that channel, right? Maybe someone would pay it when HD TV first came out to be a demo guy if it was the only HD channel. But no one would, continue to pay for it month after month unless they were just stupid rich and they weren't paying attention or who knows what. But it would make almost no money. But whoever produced that video sold that video to that channel, right? It wasn't the same, the company, the production company and the channel are not the same. And then they don't worry, they don't care if the production company that made the show doesn't give a shit if no one watches it. They got their money. So there's tons of TV production studios out there that make shows, sell them, And if the show does well, they're happy because they can sell the show another season, and that's good for them. But if the show doesn't do well, they just make another show, and they'll try to sell that, and they'll make another show and try to sell that until they get a hit. And as long as they keep selling that first season or, the first show, they're still doing all right. They're not doing great, but they're in business because they're selling a show. They only fail if they make a show and no channels buy it. So if these channels go away, no one's going to buy these shows, and those production companies are going to go away, and there's going to be huge disaster in the TV arena. And we know that, like, the TV arena, there was a writer's strike recently, right? So all these unions and shit, it's gonna be devastating.
And the channels too, all those little small channels that no one watches would either disappear. They have a vested interest in keeping non-a la carte cable and preventing net neutrality so that they can then make deals to where, basically you pay for Comcast internet and lifetime is included.
Yeah, and those production companies, their only option is going to be either go out of business and get a real job, or a job somewhere else. That's a real job, making TV shows. But
yeah, it is.
Or make TV shows and put them on YouTube and hope the fuck that people watch them and they're actually good. Right? Which most of those shows, no one's going to watch them.
And then don't forget the advertisers who are in it's this whole like gigantic circle of people, and they all have such vested interest in not letting things change.
I think it actually might help out in the advertising department because the supply of advertising would go way down, and all the ad buyers would have a lot less ads to buy, and thus, if you actually had something that people were watching, then you could actually get a lot more monies for it. Right now, internet stuff can't get a lot of monies just because they're morons and they can get way more better eyeballs on the internet than they get on TV. But they keep paying more for TV and radio than they pay for internet. But if the TV disappeared, then the things on the internet that actually get visits would suddenly get way valuable, and all that crap on the same, stupid piece of shit show that moved from TV to the internet when the crap TV channel disappeared wouldn't sell any ads because no one watches it. And everyone would see that no one watches it. And infomercials, I don't even know, they would be gone, which would be a great awesomeness to the world.
Yeah, of course, think about it.
Except the thing is, right, look, there's still ways to make it with infomercials. Look at the Blend guy, right? Will it blend? Yeah. That's an infomercial. He made it on the internet. That's guys,
But look, that's part of the. I think a lot of the people who are against net neutrality are actually just straight up against the idea that people who create content can provide it to the consumers directly over their precious tubes.
It comes down to the fact that
they want a cut of their electricity. It'd be like if the electric company wanted a cut of the fact that I use their electricity to make money by doing a podcast.
It just goes back to what I've always been saying. The internet destroys all middlemen. If you're a middleman, the internet destroys you because now the consumer can get directly to the producer and no one needs to be in between. And right now, in the time period we're in, there are middlemen who are surviving. For example, Apple, Amazon, right? These are middlemen who are surviving. But the reason they are surviving is not because they are middlemen. It is because they are providing technology services to both the consumer and the producer, because the consumer and the producer are not technologically competent enough
now this is what
to do the job themselves.
This is also what middlemen used to do a long time ago when there weren't things like the internet, where, all right, you want to distribute a book or a movie.
I can handle the printing and the shipping parts that you could not do on your own because you don't know about them.
But nowadays, we can do a lot of those things without those people.
Yep. So once producers are technologically competent enough to not need an Apple, to not need an Amazon, and consumers are technologically competent enough to not need an Apple or an Amazon or whoever, then all middlemen will be gone except for the utility providers like electricity, water, transportation, and
convenience providers, but only if they can be more convenient than the direct, which is possible in some markets.
Well, I mean, a convenience provider is a producer, right? I mean, if I order a comfy chair, that's a convenience provider. It's also a producer of products. That's.
But like shipping aggregators or things like that.
Well, I mean, UPS, is that, shipping? Isn't that a utility in my eyes? I mean, right?
It's possible.
I consider that a utility, shipping and transportation.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.